Alright friends, welcome back to the channel. Joining the joy of watches today with me and our good friend, you know who that is, we got Charlie Brown. Right here on a little Charlie themed native strap. This is a Timex, and Timex also makes a Snoopy version with a red NATO that I own, that my wife has. It's a good little set if you're going to get something for maybe you and your girlfriend. And they also make a Lucy one in blue, and I think they make a Linus one as well. Anyway, they're very popular, although his arms can be a little disorienting at certain times. But anyway, that's a topic for another video. Today we're going to be talking about, well, a little bit about watch basics and the parts for our new friends here. And we're going to start with two watches that I own, that I've had for quite a long time now. These are probably my two favorites that I've had for the longest here. They're both Seikos. And the first one here, as I try to get it into focus, this is a Seiko Flightmaster. It's the SNA F11 or F13, I always get them mixed up. One has the black dial and the yellow hands, and this one of course is the blue and white with the red on the chronograph here. So you can see it's quite a complicated piece. There's a lot going on. I remember when I first got this, it was a present from my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time. And if you're dating a girl right now and she happens to give you a watch, and you know she's a keeper. I know I did. But anyway, the manual that came with this watch was thick. It was this thick. It was huge. I never read it. I'm sure I have it somewhere. But this was probably the first serious watch I owned here from Seiko, and it's a pretty desired piece these days. There's a lot of groups online, and I mean Seiko's kind of a popular brand to have already, but this particular one, along with the other one, the black and the yellow one, are very desired right now, and for good reason. It's a nice piece. But I'm going to talk a little bit about the watch basics and kind of what you're looking at. Maybe you're a new watcher, or you're a new kind of person who just got a watch and don't really know what you're looking at. So when you first pick up a watch, there's the most obvious, the part that draws your attention here, which is the dial. So that's where all the information is. That's where the time is indicated. That's where a lot of the style of the watch comes in. And this dial is quite complex. It has the second hand over on the left here, and it has a chronograph. So if I push this is called a pusher up here. It starts moving. I push it again and it stops. And then if I push the bottom one, it'll reset. Now the dial is covered by something called the crystal, which you can see right there is the kind of, in this case it's domed, but it's not glass. This one's hardlex, I think it's a mineral. The other one I have, which I'll show you in a minute, is a sapphire crystal. So this protects the dial. And on the side here, right here, this is called the crown. And the crown is probably what you're going to interact with the most. So this is what you'd use to set the time. And in the case of the automatic, it's what you would use to wind the watch. And also to set the date or the day, if you happen to have that. This part on the outside here, this is called the bezel. And bezels can rotate. In this case, it's bidirectional, which means it can rotate back and forth. Some of them are unidirectional, so they only rotate one way. So divers' watches, for example, will often be that. I'll throw up some pictures. The Orient that I was working with last week, that I put the NATO on, that has a unidirectional bezel. This strap has or this is not a strap, this is a bracelet. So if we're talking about what is attaching the watch to your wrist, and it's metal, like this, it's a bracelet. And this has the kind of famous Seiko butt crack. It goes right down the middle of it, and I don't like it, but it's the stock bracelet, and I guess it just has a lot of sentimental value to me, so I haven't the heart to change it. This is the clasp. You close that there, and you lock it, and there you go. Now, this is a quartz watch, and what that means is it runs on a battery. So there's a little battery, a very small battery that's inside this. If you were to open up the back right here, you would be able to see it. And it ticks. And one of the ways you can tell if you're kind of first getting into this, the difference between a quartz and a sapphire, is if you look at the second hand right there, it tick, tick, tick. So it ticks and then it stops, and it ticks and it stops. Some of them very conveniently have automatic written on them when you're looking at an automatic, some of them do not. But that's one of the telltale signs that it is a quartz. And since we've talked about automatics, let's look at one. This is the Seiko SARB, so SARB 017. And this is also known as the Alpinist. A little mountain symbol on the back there. Now, I got this watch in maybe 3 years ago or so. I saw it online after I first started getting a little more into the Seiko community, and I had to have it. I was looking at it for months, and finally I just caved and I bought it. Got it off eBay, and it's small. I think it's a 38 millimeter, so it's small, but it is a gorgeous piece. Now, this is an automatic, and right now I left it unwound, so as you can see it's not moving. It doesn't mean it's broken, it's just not moving. When you have an automatic, of course, if you're walking, it'll wind itself by the movement of your wrist. But let's say you don't wear it for a while. What you'll do is you'll unscrew that crown, and then it'll go into that first position, and maybe you can hear that noise. That's the sound of it winding. And you'll wind it up. And most people say you should wind it about 40 times. But I'll wind it just a little bit here. And now you can see the second hand is got a much smoother, simpler rotation to it. Much more than the kind of stop and go of the quartz. It's very nice, smooth. Now this one has a small compass complication. So if I turn this one, you can see that there's like an inner ring around the dial that turns, and that's a compass. I don't go hiking, so don't ask me how it works. That's in the manual, and I haven't read it in a while. But that's one of the things called a complication. And a complication is something additional that the watch can do besides just tell the time. In this case, we have you can see here, a date complication. So it'll show me what day of the month it is. The Orient I had last week and many other watches, I'll put up pictures, have what's called a day date complication. So it'll show you the day of the week and the day of the month on there. Complications can range from simple things like date here to much more complex complications such as moon phase. It can be a chronograph like we were just looking at. It can be a helium escape valve for deep sea divers. You can see a lot. Today is the 23rd, so if you're setting the time, you actually want to set it to the day before, because the watch doesn't know AM from PM, and then you wind it. Now it just became the 23rd, so I know I'm in the AM zone, and right now it's 2:42. So I'll give it one clean turn. That's noon. That's 2. It'll be 2:42. Right there. This particular one does not have a bracelet. It has a strap. So this is a leather strap. I picked this one up. This is not the stock strap. This is one I bought. The stock strap kind of got a little too beat up for me to wear it kind of nicely. And this part right here where it's attached, these are called the lugs. And this is where your strap or your bracelet will attach to your watch. And there's a bar that holds the strap on there, and that's called the spring bar. And everything else is in the case. I won't talk too much about movements here, because movements can be a little more complicated. I'm not a watchmaker. I just used to sell them. So I worked with watchmakers, but I never really got into the actual making or repairing aspect of it. But that's kind of the basics of what a quartz and an automatic are, what the parts of the watch are, and a little bit of the differences and different type of things you can see. Well, thank you again for joining me, friends. It's good to talk to you all about my hobby. I hope you're picking up something nice soon, or maybe you've picked up something recently you want to share. Charlie Brown always wants to know more about what you're doing these days. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Thanks again.
Are you listening? Damn. Yeah.